Good morning. My name is Juanita Brent. I'm a state representative from Ohio House District 12, and I thank you for joining me for this important press conference we are having regarding the state of Ohio deciding to release 73 new medical cannabis dispensary licenses. When we look back at the history of cannabis within our country, the first instance of this where it became very problematic is when we start talking about the war on drug crime. When we talk about the war on drugs within our country, you talk about stigmatizing a plant within our country a long time ago that disproportionately criminalized Black and brown people all throughout our country. Some years ago, we had the opportunity within the state of Ohio to make sure that we legalize medical cannabis within our state. During that time period when we legalized cannabis, we also made sure that there was a set aside to make sure that we had equitable distribution of licenses, particularly to make sure that those who've been socially disadvantaged from when it comes to affected by the war on drugs will be able to benefit from the program, the medical cannabis program. We are demanding today from the governor as well as the pharmacy board asking for equity when it comes to this program. I, as well as my president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, Representative West, we have some dispensary owners, we have some people who are patients, we have some people who are advocates who are advocating for equity within our country. It's been long overdue. We have 114 different owners right now within our state. Right now, we only have an estimate of 9 of them who are minorities. And when I say minorities, I'm talking particularly about Black and brown people. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. And as you look back at the history of it, you're probably asking yourself, well, didn't the state of Ohio have a set aside to make sure that we took care of this? Yes, and it was struck down within the courts. Struck down in the courts that this could not exist of this set aside. So now we are still fighting for this. This license process is about to start September 14th of this year, and it's going to take a couple months, but we want to let the governor and the pharmacy board now know, and been letting them know, that this is not enough. This lottery system is not enough if we really want to deal with the racial disparities when it comes to ownership of licenses for Black and brown people here within the state of Ohio. I have people behind me, Herb Washington, who's a dispensary owner. We have Nicole Ross, who owns a production for Nora Labs. We have other people that are here with us. We even have the Honorable Kwanzi Hall, who is not in visually behind me, but he is here with us in the room. And we are coming together to say that we are going to fight as a fist and not as a bunch of fingers to let people know that equity is a standard, not an option here within the state of Ohio. And ownership is the key if we want to move forward in making sure that people have access to cannabis. So the next person up that I'm gonna have speak is Nicole Ross. She owns Nora Labs, is a production company of cannabis in the Dayton area. I'm so glad to have her. She has been such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to her company. And so I'm gonna bring up Nicole Ross.
Thank you, State Representative Brent. I appreciate this time. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and talk about this concern with racial injustice when it comes down to having social equity for cannabis operators, for patients to be involved in the program, etc. My name is Nicole Ross, and I'm the COO and also owner of Nora Labs, a medical marijuana processing facility located in Dayton, Ohio. And one of the things that's imperative about this whole program is that we have an opportunity to be inclusive. Not inclusive with just one body of people, but with multiple bodies for underrepresented communities. Because our underrepresented communities need voices and faces that looks like us to be able to be represented as we have patients to come and produce and make products for patients in the program. We want to ensure that these 73 licenses that we have here are going to be able to be distributed amongst the program, that we are, as owners, are able to participate and be able to have opportunities to make products that can go into dispensaries for consumers and patients to be able to to consume and buy from people who also look like ourselves. We also want to make sure that when we talk about this program, we're not talking about it just for minorities or brown and black people, but underrepresented communities like disadvantaged communities, veterans, etc. Because it's important that we have a community and a patient base that's inclusive and a production that's inclusive when it comes down to making sure social equity and social justice is performed here in the program in the state of Ohio. When it comes down to our representation is under 1%. It's under 1% when it comes down to women-owned companies. It's less than 1% when it comes down to minority-owned companies. And we have to make sure that we have the proper policies in place, but the policies can't catch up to when we get equity and have it struck down when we are trying to be sustainable in this actual program as well, because sustainability is important for us to be able to produce the products and the medicines that is important for patients here in the program. We want to make sure that we consider everybody's perspective and not just one, because that's what we have to come down to do, to compromise when it comes down to adult use bills in the future. Because if we don't have a stake to play in the space today, then we won't have a stake to play in the space later on. And it's important that we have this opportunity to make sure that the policies are formulated for all of us to have an opportunity to position ourselves to be able to make abundance in this program. The next person that I'm going to bring up to talk about this issue is Ali Reeves, who is the founder and president of Midwest Cannon Women. And she's going to talk about the importance of how we come together collectively to build an equitable and a compromisable community.
Hello, everyone. I want to say I am very grateful and humbled to be here today. It's very important to me that we do support everyone in this program as far as social equity programs, and also to make sure that we work together to make sure that this is one of the forefront and important to us moving into this program. I do want to introduce someone today, and that is National Policy Director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana, Eric Foster, and he's going to explain his role and his importance in helping us get these things started. Eric?
Thank you. Excuse me for sweating. I'm going to lose a little weight. My name is Eric Foster. I'm the National Policy Director for Cannabis and Hemp with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and I'm glad to be here today. We at Minorities for Medical Marijuana feel that social equity is also social economics, that this is an economic issue with respect to ownership, with respect to supply chain diversity and the procurement that takes place within the industry, career mobility, not just entry-level hiring, but mobility through the management ranks and the executive ranks within licensees, as well as community investment and givebacks, health justice through medical marijuana research, and restorative justice. And we're going to work with the coalition that's here to help bring some of those common sense policies that can improve not only the economic opportunities for African Americans and other people of color in Ohio that are not prevalent and available under the current structure that we have in place, but can also impact and help other communities. If you increase the economic output of our community, you increase the economic output of the state. And with that, I'm going to introduce Herb and Terrell Washington, and they're going to speak as operators here in this industry.
Thank you. Terrell is my son. He had to work today, and he gave me the duty of coming down and speaking. I'd much rather hear from Terrell. He's much more, much better looking, and certainly his oratory skills are much better than mine. But I would like to start this morning by thanking State Representative Brent and State Representative West for convening us here at State House this morning for such a very important subject. I know we don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to try to be brief, but yet at the same time touch on some points, some that have been made and some that have not been made. It is my opinion, and I think the opinion that we all share, is that we have a tremendous opportunity ahead of us with these 73 dispensaries that will be led very soon. We have an opportunity in golf. They call it a mulligan. I don't know how many people here slogan or do-over. And the do-over is because 2 years ago, when the licenses were all awarded, went into business, many people, black and brown, that looked like us standing up here, got left out. I was one of the fortunate ones that was able to prevail and get a dispensary license and a processing license. We missed a cultivation license by approximately 3.5 points. Imagine that. I've been in the business now for 2 years. I was the first African American to open a dispensary in the state of Ohio, and we're just surpassed our second year. What I want to talk about is a couple concerns that are a little bit more specific as it relates to the licenses that are about to be let. These 70 dispensaries, when you think about it as a dispensary owner, we're going to be diluted. We're going to be diluted because you're talking about, in most cases, doubling the amount of dispensaries in a particular zone. So if you take Mahoney County, which is where my dispensary is, we currently have 3, and the conversation is to go to 6. Well, that's a community that has average disposable income of $24,000. So if you add 3 more dispensaries, do you think that their income went up? Is the patient number going to double? The state made a comment I read about how many patients equal viability. I think that that's a very slippery slope, State Rep Brent and State Rep West, when government tells entrepreneurs what success looks like. I doubt seriously that anyone at the state level knows the investment that most folks here have endured, and I will tell you, unless it is an exception, they have not recouped their investment that they have in this business. What did not take place is the fact that they did not raise the number of growers. Currently, if you are a dispensary owner, and I'll take a little liberties with being a processor, you can't get flour. There's occasions when you can't get flour. You can get trim, maybe. Okay, maybe, depending upon your relationships and what have you. Because the big MSOs, which is multi-state operators, they have all the clout. They buy in higher volume. So would you rather sell 20,000 or 100,000 of a product? You want to sell the 100,000. The guy with 20, I'll get to you if I have something left. That's what is happening when you don't have the numbers. Think about this for a moment. In the state of Ohio, dispensaries, you know how many are owned by black folk? 4. 4. It's pretty sober. We talked about 1% of ownership of people, black and brown. Nationally, it's 4%. What do you think the incarceration rates are? You know, these licenses are very coveted from a financial standpoint because they can be generational wealth. Not just those of us who are standing here, but our families. We're no different than the MSOs, just a little bit smaller in most cases. And we want the same thing that they have. Because we don't have big lobbyists knocking on the doors, kicking the doors down, screaming. We shouldn't be penalized for that. We are asking to be allowed to get in the game. What African American and people of color have demonstrated time and time again is when given an opportunity, we can compete with anyone. We understand that the starting line moves on us and the finish line. We want to eliminate that. Make it fair. I would just say this, lottery. We've heard a lot about this lottery system. Be careful. Illinois just had a lottery. Okay? I know some folks that get a perfect score in the lottery. They had 3 lotteries. They had a perfect score. did not win a dispensary. They all look like me. Lottery. I would just say this in closing. It's imperative that we find a way to ensure that people of color have a chance to win some of these covenant licenses. And Ohio has a chance to be, or set, the gold standard when it comes to cannabis inclusion. We, both sides of the aisle, Department of Commerce, Department of Pharmacists, if we truly come together and do what is right for all people, we will have that gold standard, and it will be one that a lot of folks from outside will come here because we've done such a good job. I've more than run over my time, and I would like to now bring to the podium State Rep Thomas West.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Herb, for saying those words. And I want to say you could have taken 2 more hours because he was the first African American to open up at this in the medical marijuana space. And I can tell you it's no easy task. So to see a young man like himself, he says his son is more charming than he is, but I think you guys got the gist of that, right? Let me first thank Representative Brent for bringing all these people together. Representative Brent decided to lead the way for the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus in this space. She has a very keen knowledge in this area, and we were excited that she took the lead on that. And let me also thank all of the people that came all across the state to the State House, because that's what this is all about, is bringing us together to bring forth a message of equity. Let me say that again, a message of equity. 2 years ago, in their plans, there was supposed to be equity, and later got struck down by the Supreme Court because we didn't have a predicate study. 2 years later, there's no predicate study. There's no disparity study. That's something that we could have done, but we didn't do. So the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus was in on the beginning of this, and we have our eyes, our ears open. And we are prepared to do whatever it takes to make certain that equity happens in this space. Not just equity, but also education, right? Education, let's make certain that we address the issues of education and get people prepared. There's a lot of people who want to go into business, but they're not adequately ready to go into business, whether they don't have the resources or the know-how. It's time to start providing the education. We, the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, is looking forward to working with the Department of Commerce, the Ohio Pharmacy Board, and anyone else that is willing to work on this. And obviously someone's seen me on the news here, so. Let me also say this. I think when we look at equity in the state of Ohio, one of the things that I like to see happen is that we also look at all of the medical marijuana spaces across the state and make certain that the workforce is also reflective of our community. These are important tasks. One of the things that happened this week that made me very proud is our newspaper had a commentary by the editor, and he's talked about diversity in his own workspace. We all need to look in the mirror and look at our workspace and make certain that it is reflective of our customer base. And it made me so proud that I made a call to the editor and told him, thank you for your quote in the newspaper, because that meant more to me than I've ever seen in a newspaper. When I say that, I didn't have to worry about just seeing people getting caught up on drug charge, or a person that deals with this or that. We need to make certain that our whole state is the gold standard, and that gold standard includes equity. And I think that's the message today, is if anything else that we don't get across, is that we're asking the pharmacy board to consider equity. And no disrespect, but when it comes down to the what is it called, the lottery, let's think about that for a minute. It costs $5,000 for an application just to have a shot. And right now, the state of Ohio, we've been gambling too much with Maximilian. I don't need to tell you. It's time to start investing in its citizens and making certain that we have equity across the board and that every industry that we have a part of, that we are able to push out, making certain that equity is involved. So with all that being the case, this is the opportunity. This is their show. And by all means, we are here to answer your questions and get this information out to the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before he answers asking questions, I just really want to say some names because I don't know if everyone at home can see everyone that's up here, but there's been some champions that normally would not, you don't see doing the hard work. So I'm about to drop some names, and they always say never drop names because it's never good. But we have Menelek Alexander, he's here with us. We have Anthony Riley, who has Cannabis Live, who's here with us. Ashley Hart for Pothead Genius. We have Tasha Roundtree, who is standing behind me, who's doing great work about doing expungements in Dayton. I cannot remember the amount of people, but I know it's a couple hundreds, 600 people that they help expunge. They're licensed here within the state of Ohio. We have representatives from Senator Sykes' office, who is working on the predicate study on behalf of the Black Caucus. We have former Congressman Hall here with us. We have Eric Foster, who just came and spoke with us. We have so many people that are doing the work. They are doing the work. And I intentionally want people at home to hear their names. We have representatives from Benet Leaves that are here with us. And you can't see all of the faces that are here, but people are doing the work. And we've decided to work as a fist. But I want you to hear their names. Because sometimes when people see myself and they see Rep West, they think we are doing this by ourselves. But there's a lot of people who are doing the work. There's some people that are here, some people that were not able to be here because of time conflicts, but they are doing the work, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them, and I want them to hear that I'm so proud of them, that they are here, and also Broderick Randall too, I saw him over here. And I thank you guys for just showing up and being here. And I also want to announce our new state director. And I want to make sure I get the name right of their title of African Americans.
Minorities for Medical Marijuana.
Minorities for Medical Marijuana, Allie Reeves. So I want her to stand here so you guys can see her face. That this is our point person for the state when it comes to that. We have people that are doing the work every day. So without further ado, we're going to let the press ask some questions, if they have any, so we can go forward.
I have a question. What would equity look like in this program with these new licenses being added? And what have you suggested to the pharmacy board to do in this upcoming application process to make sure that happens?
We're going to,
Let me see, I think the first thing is we asked for a meeting with the stakeholders. You can meet with Representative Brent and myself, but really they need to sit down with the people that are doing the work. And that's always a great start, okay? The second is to figure out how is it that when we talk about equity within this new process, Herb, I think, said it best when he said, this is a do-over, okay? Let's get it right. Let's first put forth a predicate study. Let's go ahead and put an RFP out. That should be done tomorrow. Get that RFP started, get that process going. And let's get that study that's necessary so that we can really roll out the program that we need. I don't think that we're saying that we are against 73 new operators. We're saying let's make it equity. Let's make certain that everything is equal. Let's make certain that we're supporting the businesses that are already out there. And let's grow this the way that we intended it to grow it, in my mind.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
There's sometimes we get focused on where we are and not where we're going to go. And a great hockey player once said, they asked Gretzky, why are you always around the puck? And he says, I go where the puck is going, not where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the cannabis business here in Ohio, why do I bring up that parallel? Because we're talking about 73 licenses, right? Let's not forget, If I was a betting man, and we got a lot of casinos now, I would bet that we're gonna be in adult use at some point. And if we are disproportionately represented at the dispensary level, my brother from Michigan, guess what? When full adult use comes, we will also be, the disparity will be even more compounded, because now the potential economics grows expeditiously. And if we don't get in on the ground floor, it will be almost impossible once it's rooted to participate in this.
Question for Rep. West. You talked about the Supreme Court case being decided a couple of years ago, and
Yes.
the study not being completed in the meantime. What is it, or is there anything that makes you optimistic that this is going to change this time around?
Well, my understanding is the reason it fell is because we did not have a predicate study. And therefore, if, in my mind, if we have that predicate study, then of course we can move forward with a certain number of populations being, licenses actually going to minority organizations. Thank you.
And I'll just chime in, this is Brent. There are other states that have this already in place. So, and they didn't have a predicate study. So our state, we're telling the state that if equity was the goal, then a predicate study would already been done. And things have been moving on even without that. And it's been other states, you have that in Michigan, it's not to me, California, and also as well Illinois, where we have that piece of equity within these programs. So this is not something that's not doable at all.
Are you saying that they should hold off on opening this application period until they do the predicate study and set criteria for equity?
Yes, there's two problems that are going on with this, and one is what Herb Washington brought up, and I'm going to bring another friend up here to the podium, is that for one, we're going to have more dispensaries than we're going to have growers. And if we talk about even things that make sense, if we're opening up all these different dispensaries, where's the flower going to come from? We're still going to have the same amount of growers here within the state of Ohio, but even more dispensaries. That's going to affect price. That's going to affect the bottom line. And we know that people are hurting. Their pockets are hurting. So why would we even make even more of a demand from the growers if we're not going to increase the amount of growers here within the state? One black grower. Make it make sense.
So you think that the pharmacy board should hold off on this application period?
Yes.
I think the other thing is, I think it's more of, in my mind, we're still in this process of 73 licenses. This is the time, if not, bring them to the table, let's sit down and talk and figure out how is it that we can make this equitable. A lottery system may not work. Matter of fact, none of them may have less people applying because now they're not going to gamble with a $5,000 application fee that you may lose. Most business, I don't care if you're a minority or not, will not just throw $5,000 just for a chance. They want the whole kitchen caboodle. And I'm not saying it's $5,000, I don't know what it is, but whatever the process is, let's make certain that we have an entry point to where minorities have access to all levels.
If I can add from, and I did apologize, I forgot to introduce Alex, our state director. From the Minorities for Medical Marijuana perspective, we believe, in addition to waiting until the disparity study, there are things that you can do inside of what was part of the rationale in overturning the preference portion in Pharmacadia v. Ohio with respect to the dormant commerce clause that you can write into through the current administrative rule process, preferencing for racial and socioeconomic classifications. You can also write in activities or criteria points with respect to community investment, with respect to hiring and career mobility and hiring persons from disaffected communities, transitional workers, and other classifications, coupled with also on the supply diversity side to ensure that you are spending your procurement dollars. The average licensee has anywhere from 40 to 120 vendors that are providing services that are not licensed. So there's a huge swath of activity within the current administrative rules. But additionally, there are things that need to be changed statutorily. The lottery models are not a good model. What we've seen at Minorities for Medical Marijuana is the states that have the most diverse ownership classifications across all license types, California, Colorado, Michigan, Massachusetts, have one thing in common. They're all uncapped, local control markets. The state's approval process is more of a compliance model. Are you meeting compliance requirements, and do you have the approval of a local community to operate in? It also allows that local community to put in regulations to help further push African American and people of color into the licensing process. And those states are more proactive at reaching out and working with communities and working with the elected officials and other stakeholders. There's a better way here, and we want to get to that better way here with Ohio. There's no reason why we can't. We're here to help. Representative West and Woods, Representative Brent,
You had it.
and the whole team. Oh, I'm sorry. West, Brent, and the whole team, the licensees. This is just not a viable model to continue economically. It's hurting communities economically, and we need to modify, change, and do what's right.
Could I, there is, just to the point about modification. I had a mayor of a city in Michigan in the past 60 days reach out to me and ask if I'd be interested in coming to his city and opening up, whether it's dispensary, processing, or grow. Reached out to me because of what we've done here in Ohio. So the point that was just made is very real and can happen. I just have to get approved in Michigan, which is not that difficult. So I just wanted, because that's real.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then also too, a part of this process is also sustainability, because if we don't have the economics withheld, we won't be able to sustain in the industry. The issue is not always just about being able to have a license, it's being able to keep a license as well, because if we can't keep a license, we won't be able to move forward to be able to grow within the internal space. Within patients are going to be lacking out on the resources and the availability for them to receive the products that looks and are beneficial for them in their own communities as well. We don't want patients to have to go outside of the state to be able to get what they need. We want to be able to come to Ohioans as well. We're Ohioans as well, trying to make an opportunity to come from the people of Ohio. And we want to make sure that the opportunity is measured across the entire state and not just for one body of people. Another thing about this process is, as you said, holding it is one of the things that is important, but also making sure that we don't wait till the laws get caught up to the actions of right now. Because right now is the time for us to be able to move the agenda forward, because we're already at signatures to be able to pass adult use. And then if we don't have the conversations about 73 licenses today, then adult use, when 50 more are issued, they're going to already have the opportunities to be grandfathered into the system and be able to have more licensures for more, I guess, MSOs in the state of Ohio. And we want to be able to have the opportunity to be able to advance beyond just medical marijuana program itself. So.
One other thing I neglected to mention, this week I heard that we had 10 dispensaries. Now we have 9. And the reason we have 9 is because someone sold. You have the giants now buying up or gobbling up the smaller ones. That's not what we want. Owned by African Americans, excuse me, let me say that correctly. Thank you for that. We want to make certain that we have individuals that not only are going into business, but they are sustained in business and serving our communities at large. This has a lot to do with generational wealth, okay? Our communities need to see African Americans, Black and brown people thriving. And this is one opportunity that you've already heard, it's all about economics. This can help our communities grow when they start seeing other African Americans being successful in entrepreneurship. That's one reason why the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus is so far behind this, because we need to see economic growth in our communities and across the state. And let me also mention, we've had, and I want to thank the Medical Marijuana Association for reaching out to us because they asked us for policy. They said we wanted to make certain equity is in our policy. That's how we should be doing it at the state, at the Department of Commerce and the Department of Pharmacy. What do we need to put in our policies that would make equity? And then we will be there to help them, guide them through that. So we appreciate you. Any other questions?
I would like to make one last comment, and I'm sorry for talking so much, but here's something that we did not touch on, and it relates to the patients. If you add, in my opinion, 73 additional licenses, and you do not increase the growth, do you think the price is gonna go down? You have just enriched the growers. Okay, you just giving them more customers, and what's their incentive to lower the price? They have a captive audience. So because this is about patience, and price is very important. That's one of the things we've heard from customers and some of the things that I've read. They're concerned about price. And you add to 73, the price is gonna go down because you're gonna get some cannibalization with some of the locations. And yet the grow price, which we have some of the highest price in the country, in Ohio, is gonna remain high and the profits are gonna continue to grow.
I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing. And this is really us reaching out to compromise. We want to work with the Board of Pharmacy. We want to work with the Department of Commerce. We want to work with any and everybody that's in the state of Ohio and out that actually wants to help us create this program. It's viable right now because if we don't do it now, when will we do it? And all we have to do is sit down and have this true conversation and try to figure out things. You know, we're not demanding anything. We actually, like I said, we want to compromise and work with each other. So please reach out to all of us. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Ms. Beck, you can come up here, President West. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming. Just as the first vice president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus and my president, Representative West, for the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, and everyone that's here, just know we are working on behalf of Ohioans. And this has been a process that is moving forward, not back. And so you will continue to see more movement going towards bringing equity towards the state of Ohio when it comes to cannabis. Thank you so much and have a great day.
So